Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Take Three podcast. My name is Brandon, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Alex. We're here on a Thursday afternoon, just a couple hours before the Philadelphia Eagles welcome Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into Philadelphia for obviously the Thursday night football game of the week. I mean, it's not like a great matchup, but it's probably a little bit more interesting than some other matchups that I've seen on Thursday night football. Honestly, I mean, we got another London game, Miami and Jacksonville. It seems like we could just leave Jacksonville over there, and I don't know if anybody would really even mind if we just left them in London. Like, could just let them stay there. Definitely leave Urban Meyer over there. Then we got like Green Bay goes on to Chicago. I think that's always like an interesting game, just because of it becomes like a war of attrition. Chicago somehow they always like play stout defense when they face Aaron Rodgers. Has been blowouts, obviously, but I feel like at home at Soldier Field with Justin Fields, I think it'll be a little bit more competitive than most people assume. What else? We got the Rams going on the road to place the Giants. Giants beat up. I don't know if Daniel Jones is playing, so I mean they should roll them. Kansas City hopefully gets get the wheels back on the train going into Washington. Their defense has allowed like 29 plus points in every game. I believe it's this year, at least 4 straight games. So they've been beat up. And then obviously the big ones laid out, or actually I didn't even realize, Baltimore, the Chargers, that's a 1 o'clock game. Justin Herbert, Lamar, that's a big one. Everybody will have their eyes on in that 1 o'clock window. And then obviously the afternoon slate with the Cardinals going on the road to play Cleveland. So, I mean, there's not really that many great games, but there's some games that are worthy of being talked about. I mean, what do you feel going into Thursday night and looking at the broad scope of week 6?
Well, excited that we get a nationally televised Eagles game because we're not going to get many of those this year. We had the Monday night against Dallas. That one didn't go too well. So hopefully Tampa Bay doesn't beat up on the Eagles too bad. But I'm pretty excited for these AFC matchups this weekend. Chargers and Baltimore, really excited for that. And I want to see if Arizona can stay undefeated on the road in a very tough Cleveland environment. So, yeah, all eyes on those games to me.
Exactly. There's like a big, and Monday night's really not that bad. It's interesting to see if Buffalo coming off a pretty emotional, like on the road victory in Kansas City can keep their momentum going on the road at Monday Night Football at Tennessee, who's they're figuring themselves out a little bit. Derrick Henry going and really kind of taking control of that AFC South. So, I mean, yeah, let's just get it started right away. We got Tom Brady and the Bucs. 4-1 going on the road to face the 2-3 Eagles. Obviously, Tom Brady got everything back going last week. Big 10-point favorite against the Dolphins. They win 45-17. He throws 5 touchdown passes. It seems like at this point, Tom's just kind of stat padding. It's almost funny when he just blows these teams out. And then you got the Eagles. Obviously, they were dominated by the Panthers, honestly, all day. And one special teams play flips it. Sam Darnold throws 3 interceptions. And suddenly we have an Eagles win on the road at Carolina. Thursday night, whole different ballgame. We know Tom Brady's not going to throw 3 interceptions. Most likely, I might have just cursed him, but Tom Brady's probably not throwing 3 interceptions to the secondary. No offense to my own team secondary. What do you kind of see of this? Is this kind of a game like the Bucs are going to do their thing, or do you think this game will kind of be closer than more people think? Obviously, Tampa Bay's allowed 275 plus passing yards and 2 touchdowns to each quarterback they face this year. So it says, hey, Jalen Hurts might be able to find room to attack through the air. And we know, obviously, we've watched 5 games in Nick Sirianni. He likes to attack through the air. He doesn't like to run the football, it seems. So, I mean, what do you see going into Thursday night football?
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where the Eagles have a decent chance to keep it competitive and a very slim chance to actually get the W. I expect Tampa Bay to come in to Philadelphia and do their thing. Tom Brady will go 3 touchdowns. I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty well in this too, with Leonard Fournette, get that rush game going. To me, it's like, can the Eagles score enough points to keep up with them? I think it could be a scenario where like we scored 30 against the Chiefs, but we still lost by 12, right? We let up 42. I think it could be something like that. You're kind of within a touchdown or 2 possessions, but you're never like truly in the game. I expect the Eagles to throw the ball a lot. I think it's going to be one of those games where you see Jalen Hurts with like 40 to 50 pass attempts, because we already saw against Tampa Bay, it's hard to run the ball in the middle. And then Philadelphia doesn't really like running the ball that much anyway. So I don't expect a lot of touches for Kenneth Gainwell or Miles Sanders. I just think it's one of those games where the Eagles are going to try and just keep up score wise, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. And it doesn't help that Dallas Goedert's not going to suit up tonight. So maybe Zach Ertz can turn the clock back a little bit to give this offense some life. But I'm just hoping the Eagles can score enough points to keep it competitive. I don't really see a scenario unless Tampa Bay beats themselves that the Eagles could win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think there'll be room for the Eagles offense to kind of get out there and exploit a beat up Bucs secondary that's going to feature guys like Richard Sherman out there. I think there will certainly be room. The crowd will definitely be juiced. I mean, you go down to Philly, if anybody's been to Lincoln Financial Field, the atmosphere there, even for a 1 o'clock game, is pretty nuts. But when you throw it down to a Thursday night prime time, where everybody's been tailgating the entire day, the atmosphere gets a little bit crazy. But I mean, we're facing Tom Brady, and we're talking about Tom Brady here. And I mean, if you look at, he's 9-1 on 10 career starts on 3 days rest. So he's kind of been dominant. When he has 3 days rest, he kind of takes care of business. So I mean, I just assume that he'll find a way to get it done once again. I mean, it's just another game where the Eagles, in a lot of games this season, they're going to have the odds stacked against them. And yeah, I think it'll be competitive, but I just don't think overall we will have enough juice to get it done. I think at some point, though, if they start out slow, right, like you look at last week against the Panthers, Tom Brady's not letting you come back if you're down 15-3 or 18-3. Like, that game is just going to be sealed. And yeah, I mean, hypothetically, when you think about it, they would be able to get the run game going. I don't know how committed the Bucs will be to the run game. It's weird that both teams kind of play the same style. They're not very committed to the run game at all. Obviously, Jalen Hurts a little bit more mobile than Tom Brady. So he kind of accounts for a lot of the Eagles' rushing attack, getting outside the pocket and doing his thing. But yeah, it's just kind of one where, I mean, it's right at, I think, 6.5's the line. It's kind of a fair one. I kind of see it being in that range, maybe touchdown, 10-point win for Tampa Bay when I look at the broad scope of things.
Yeah, agreed. I'm hoping we get a good Devontae Smith game, take advantage of that poor secondary. That's really all the hope is for the Eagles.
Yeah. I also saw an interesting stat that Jalen Hurts this year against the blitz averages 10 yards a pass, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 119 passer rating. He's only been sacked 3 times. That's when teams are blitzing him. When teams drop back and play coverage, 6.5 yards attempt, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, rating drops down to 83, and he's been sacked 7 times. So it's weird, right? You'd think like the goal, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to cover up their secondary. Yeah, just blitz. But it's weird to see that Jalen Hurts has actually been good against the blitz. Obviously, he's mobile. He gets out of the pocket and makes plays happen with his legs. But yeah, it's just super interesting to see if you don't blitz him, he's actually a worse quarterback.
Yeah, definitely an outlier there. Jalen burning the blitz.
Yeah, I did not expect that. So it'll be interesting to see what Todd Bowles dials up on the defensive front. Yeah, let's move on. We got 1 o'clock, big one. Chargers 4-1. Big 47-42 W against the Browns at home last week. So that was kind of an emotional W. They go across the country on the road. These are kind of these games that I look at as trap games when West Coast teams win big games, or just West Coast teams in general come across the country for 1 o'clock starts. They get the Ravens in Baltimore, second straight home game for the Ravens. Obviously, we just watched the remarkable Lamar Jackson comeback show on Monday Night Football, them coming back to beat the Colts after being down 25-9. This is interesting. I'm interested to see if kind of the Chargers defense can stop Lamar Jackson, kind of contain him, and if he'll be able to throw the same way, or if it'll be more Justin Herbert, just kind of cool, calm, relaxed in a big game, just kind of doing his thing again. What do you see?
Yeah, so the Western team traveling across the country and playing an early game, I think is definitely a real thing. They're always kind of like starting in a fog, or don't start hot, or don't play well at all. Because it's weird, like your body's used to like performing at a certain time, or like getting a certain sleep. So when you just kind of mess up the schedule, it definitely changes the flow. So I do think that has a small impact on it. But this game is really interesting to me. You got 2 dominant AFC teams. The Ravens have looked really good passing the ball, which is weird because they're like the best running team in the league. They're usually a running strength is usually their offense, which makes this game really interesting to me, because the Chargers struggle against the run, but they defend the pass decently well. And it's like, but Baltimore's not been running the ball heavy. They've been passing the ball heavy through injuries and just kind of a few personnel changes. So it's kind of really interesting to me how this lines up. To me, it's all about Lamar Jackson and that Baltimore offense. Can they score enough? Because I expect Justin Herbert and the Chargers to do their thing. Baltimore's defense is good. They're no slouch. It's in Baltimore. I think the Chargers struggle. And I like the Ravens. They've been so resilient. I've been saying it week in and week out that they've just keep impressing me. And like, I'm going to roll with Lamar Jackson to get it done through the air, which is like kind of weird to say, but he's been getting it done through the air the last few weeks. And I'm going to pick him to keep the train rolling at home.
Yeah, they've just kind of been that team. I mean, when I look at it, I'm just seeing some other interesting stats. Lamar Jackson, he's 8-0 in the month of October. He kind of holds it down. He wins ball games in October. But yeah, I think in my eyes, it comes down. Yeah, this week comes down to the two quarterbacks. Can Baltimore's defense kind of at home get at Justin Herbert, force him into a mistake? We kind of know the Chargers are going to come out pass heavy. Justin Herbert as a second, but he throws 40 times a game on average through the last 2 years. So we know he's going to continue to air the rock out and how good he's been. But will this game, I mean, there's kind of, I look at it, especially with a team like the Cardinals, but the Chargers are kind of in that similar game, similar category of when will they go on the road and kind of look like a human team. They've looked so good, and there'll be a game where the team hits the wall. And we're like, yeah, are these guys really that good? Obviously, they're a good football club. But I'm interested to see if the Ravens can kind of force that out. And then it's another interesting thing. The Ravens are 3-0 in games, which they've had under a 28% win probability with 5 or few minutes left in regulation this season. So, I mean, we talked about it on the recap. The Ravens, they find ways. They don't stop playing. They play hard until the final whistle rings. So, I mean, we know Lamar, I mean, if they get down early, we know that he's going to be able to lead them back and kind of do their thing, something that we didn't really foresee happening, or at least I didn't foresee him really being able to do that with his arm going into the year, which is super surprising. And then just one last stat is Baltimore has not allowed a rusher to rush for more than 60 yards. So it'll be interesting to see if the Chargers try to get Austin Eckler going at all, or if they just use him in the pass game to kind of try to spread them out. I don't know if they want to get in like a shootout with Lamar Jackson, if they try to slow down the game and kind of trust their defense, or if they're just going to say, yeah, let's do what we did last week. I mean, go balls to the wall, kind of offense for offense, and then we'll just try to outscore the opposition. A little bit different of a battle when you're battling with Lamar Jackson compared to a Baker Mayfield and an injured shoulder. But yeah, that's just kind of, I expect it to be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, and I think the Chargers are just going to be like victim of circumstances. Just I say that in the sense they're coming off the emotional win against the Browns. They've been at home the last couple games. You're traveling across the country. I just think like it's not a good Sunday for the Chargers to play Baltimore. I love the Chargers against the Ravens. If we see this matchup again in the playoffs, I might lean Chargers. I love this Chargers team, but I just think it's one of those scenarios being on the road. They just beat the Browns, an emotional thing. There's just like a lot of outliers that kind of just lined up this week against the Chargers. And I just think they're going to have to overcome a little bit more this week if they're going to go on the road and get the W.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I'm with the Ravens as well this week. Kind of just a unfortunate thing when you play such a grueling game the week before, back and forth battle, win that on the last possession, and then you got to go on the road to face another top of the crop AFC team, another AFC North squad. And just the air raid Ravens now, right? They used to be the rushing attack Ravens. They're now they're now the air raid Ravens. Yeah, I mean, honestly, although I love the Chargers as a whole this season, I kind of expect the Ravens to kind of control. This will be the game where they control it. I think they could control it from start to finish. Just a bad matchup, bad week, as you said, for the Chargers to kind of go on the road and play the Ravens. But moving on, another AFC North team, we got the Browns hosting the Cardinals. Obviously, we watched the Browns narrowly get beat. They kind of let that one slip, similar to the Chiefs loss earlier in the year, where they kind of let two W's you could argue that they could have had, that they let slip out from underneath them, obviously letting the Chargers win 47-42. And then we got Kyler Murray, the lone undefeated team and probably coach of the year favorite, at least up until this point in the season, Cliff Kingsbury. Brings his Cardinals on the road, coming off a 17-10 victory over the 49ers. It's kind of another one where Cardinals come off a division game. They're going on the road to play the Browns, who just lost like a tough game. Browns back home. I expect kind of the Browns to get their feet under them and kind of do their thing. But then it's hard to doubt the undefeated team, who the Cardinals have kind of seen. They can win big, they can win close, they can get lucky and win if a field goal kicker missed the field goal. They're kind of the complete package. And it's pretty remarkable what Kyler Murray has been able to do through 5 games. And it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of bring this into this week, going up against Myles Garrett. And I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney is going to play. He was out last week, but obviously Myles Garrett, absolute monster coming off the edge. What do you see with Arizona going to Cleveland?
So I actually really like Cleveland in this game. I like them to cover, and I like them to just straight up win at home against the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. And it's like I don't like picking against Arizona with confidence because I feel really good about the Browns, but Arizona has shown great things this season. They beat the Rams. They've hung tough. They low scoring game against the Niners, still won last week. But I don't know. You're going on the road. Cleveland was on the losing end of that emotional game against the Chargers. They're going home. They want to right the ship, bounce back. You don't want to lose back-to-back games in that AFC North. I think they're going to come out really determined. And I think the best way to beat the Cardinals is ball control, run the ball. And because the best way to attack that defense is running the ball. That's been shown with the exception of Tennessee week 1. Arizona hasn't exactly been great against the run. So I think this is kind of like a perfect recipe for the Browns, and it's in Cleveland. I expect them to control this game, but if Kyler Murray were to go into Cleveland and just outduel them, and we see like maybe a similar fashion of like the Justin Herbert show last week, but we see it from Kyler, I will be extremely impressed. You're talking on the road, another W, they'd still be undefeated. It's a tall task doing it in Cleveland against a dog pound. I just don't see it happening. I really like Cleveland this week.
Yeah, I'm in on Cleveland as well. I think it's just the perfect storm. It's another one. West Coast team, Arizona, going to the AFC North. Obviously, you highlighted the perfect matchup for the Browns is attacking that Cardinals run defense. They've allowed 139 yards per game, which is fifth most in the league. And they've allowed 5.4 yards per carry, which is second most. And when you look at Cleveland, I mean, their offense is predicated on the run, heavy Nick Chubb, heavy Kareem Hunt. And it's even more so now that Baker Mayfield kind of has that left shoulder injury, which kind of made him more tentative to kind of drop back and willing to be sitting back there and maybe taking a hit. And I mean, you look at Cleveland, their rushing attack, they've averaged 187.6 yards per game and 5.4 a carry, which leads the league. So, I mean, I expect Cleveland at home, a crowd going. They just lost a tough game, high scoring game on the road to just kind of have the perfect resume where they'll play their ball control. And we'll kind of see the Cardinals come back to life a little bit. I still like the Cardinals. I kind of more and more I watch them there. I like them as long as Kyler Murray kind of stays healthy, doesn't do anything stupid, doesn't get hit too much, and doesn't get banged up. Obviously, the small frame worries you throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, I just look at it as the Browns have a perfect matchup to exploit. It's interesting looking at it. We were talking about it on the recap of last week with the Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, their chemistry, how bad it is. Baker has a 70 rating when he's targeting Odell Beckham since Odell joined in 2019, which is the lowest among QB wide receiver duos with a minimum of 100 targets. I mean, we've seen consistently, it was kind of touted as that big weapon when Odell was traded from the Giants to the Browns. Is this is going to really revitalize, and this is going to make the offense that much better. We haven't really seen it at all. I've said all along that Baker has a lot more chemistry with Jarvis Landry than he does with Odell Beckham. It's pretty evident, and it seems like he's starting to get chemistry with David Njoku when you watch that. But I mean, I expect heavy ball control, running, and then try to attack Kyler, which is hard. The man likes to run around, but I think when you have an athletic beast coming off the edge like Myles Garrett, you will have chances to get at Kyler Murray, and it'll be up to him whether he forces a throw, slides, but I think they will force a mistake or two out of Kyler on the road.
Oh, yeah, totally agree. Myles Garrett decorated his front yard with tombstones of quarterbacks. I saw Kyler on there, so hopefully he gets that done. I will say this about the spread. Vegas is always ahead of everybody, right? But the line is -3.5 for the Browns, and that damn 0.5 really messes it up because I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Browns win by 3 and the Cardinals barely cover.
Right. Yeah. 27-24 W, 24-21, somewhere in that range. Just one more thing on the Cardinals that I see now. They've started 5-0 4 times previously. And after starting 5-0, they've had a sub 60% win percentage the remainder of the season. So, so 5-0 Cardinals start doesn't really say Super Bowl on it, if we're being honest, if it goes by the history. But obviously, when you got a guy like Kyler Murray, he kind of defies what history says for the quarterback position and what your franchise looks like going forward. So, I mean, that should be a super fun one too. I'm interested to see if Arizona's defense is ready to combat with the heavy Browns rush attack. We'll move into Sunday Night Football. Honestly, like if I'm being real, this is kind of like, I did not expect to be posting a picture of Geno Smith on the slides. Obviously, we watched last week Russell Wilson torn ligament in, I believe it was his middle finger or it was his index finger, one of the fingers, torn ligament. He had surgery over last week. He's out probably a month, I believe they said. So it's Geno Smith. Honestly, he didn't look bad for one possession. It was hilarious. He led like a 95-yard drive. And I made a comment. I was like, yeah, but he had a QB controversy. Like they might not even need Russell Wilson to come back, bro. Geno Smith's slinging the rock. Like he's the real deal. And then we saw like bang, he targeted, and then that fell apart. The game winning drive, he throws an interception, I think one play in. And I was like, yeah, never mind. Yeah, the joke is. But I mean, what do you say? I mean, it's kind of, this could be the week where Najee Harris kind of gets his shot to go off. I mean, the Seahawks defense, awful, to be honest, like pretty bad defensively. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to run Najee Harris a little bit more at that front and kind of take the burden off and not have Big Ben do too much. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster is out for the season, but Chase Claypool kind of looked back to what we saw last year. Last week, he balled out last week. I think it was 5 catches, over 100 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, it's it's kind of a weird matchup for Sunday Night Football. It's like, I wish they could flex another game in. Like, I wish we could get Chargers, Ravens Sunday Night Football, or give me Arizona, Cleveland Sunday Night Football, a flex this early in the season. But yeah, what do you see? Pittsburgh Seahawks. Yeah.
Yeah, not a great Sunday Night Football matchup. Honestly, even if Russell Wilson was playing, it'd be like more interesting, but still not great. I'm just so low on this Steelers offense. I say it week in and week out. I have like little to no faith. They special teams got them a win against the Bills, and then last week their offense looked like a real offense for the first time. And Big Ben made some big throws to his credit. Finally, I might add, he's looked so bad this year. I don't know what to expect from Pittsburgh. This is definitely a game with a bad Seattle defense and a Geno Smith start that they can continue to right the ship, and they can have the possibility to look really good 2 weeks in a row. But I could definitely see this as one of those games Pittsburgh wins by just like special teams, and they just kind of gut it out. And then Seattle, they have enough weapons offensively. Geno Smith looked good for one drive. So, like, can he just move the ball and be efficient enough to score enough points against that really good Steelers defense? I'm just not really sure. I think this could be a low-scoring game, honestly, just because I don't have faith in the offenses. Am I crazy for even asking this question? Which number 7 would you take here right at this point in time? Because I just have so little confidence in Big Ben. Am I crazy for saying Geno and Big Ben are like not that far off at this point?
Big Ben hasn't looked great, but I mean, I'm probably still rolling with Big Ben.
Okay.
He kind of got the wheels back on. I mean, when you look at the Seahawks defense, they've allowed 450 plus yards in 4 straight games. They're going on the road. They just lost their franchise quarterback. It's just like everything's kind of like stacked against them. It's like, as bad as the Steelers offenses looked, it's like they're going to meet the perfect foe to make that offense. Like it's literally going to have people saying like the Steelers offense really isn't that bad. And it's like, it's going to trick you into really thinking. Like, I expect, honestly, like Najee Harris should probably get 100 yards on the ground. I would imagine if they run it right, like if whoever calls the plays up in Pittsburgh's calling plays right, I would expect Najee to get 100 plus, Claypool to get 100 receiving yards. I just don't think there's enough on the defensive side of the ball for the Seahawks, and I do not trust Geno Smith going up against that defense. I think the Steelers defense will come out attack heavy, disguise blitzes, confuse him, and force mistakes out of him, which we saw in a obviously short notice, kind of picking up the slack against the Rams. Yeah, I mean, in the scope of things, they're not, but I would still roll Big Ben. I just think there's too much stacked against the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I said it last week, or I think I said it on the recap show, actually. I think Seattle's a bad football team with just like a few really good players. And when one of the good players is a Hall of Fame quarterback, he kind of duct tapes your roster together and makes you look way better. So I took the Seahawks to cover just because of my lack of faith in Pittsburgh, but I think the Steelers win this game.
Yeah, I think I went Steelers 5.5. I just think there'll be 2 or 3 interceptions out of Geno. And I don't even know. I just don't know what the Seahawks are going to do. You hit the nail on the head, right? You take Russell Wilson off. You take a Hall of Fame quarterback that's like that good and does that much. The team really is pretty garbage. Just one more stat on these two teams. The Seahawks 9 seasons in a row without a losing season. The Steelers have had 17 consecutive seasons without a losing season. So we have 2 active streaks that are kind of in jeopardy, especially the Seahawks with Russell Wilson going to miss a month's worth of games. It kind of puts that streak in jeopardy, and it really puts kind of the future of the franchise. I think ownership and the general manager will have to really look at the landscape of this team. It makes that Jamal Adams trade even weirder when you continue to go forward, because they're without a first-round pick.
That Adams trade felt like Pete Carroll just trying to win now because he knows his time's like he's older.
Yep. But yeah, I can honestly say not very excited. But I mean, we've seen like worse matchups kind of surprise us before, so it's like I wouldn't be surprised if this somehow turns into like a semi decent game in some way. But I mean, let's move on to Monday Night Football. This is probably the more exciting primetime game. You'll have to wait one more day. The Bills go on the road, obviously coming off that huge win in Kansas City over the Chiefs, really kind of stamp their claim on the AFC. Many would think they go on the road to face the Titans, who are, I believe, they're 3-2 now. They're kind of figuring themselves out and getting Derrick Henry going, which has always been a huge part of their offense. I don't know if Julio Jones is suiting up. That was kind of the weird thing of when they originally made that move. I was like, his health has always been like a concern with the Falcons. Like he misses a lot of games, and like you're investing into a guy that misses a lot of games, and super weird. But Derrick Henry, to see him going, I mean, we've seen the King get his thing together, and then we've also seen how good Josh Allen is. It's kind of another MVP campaign that Josh Allen's really putting together, having the Bills at 4-1 and really saying, hey, that week one loss, we should really be 5-0 if we go back and get a shot to replay that game. We're undefeated alongside the Cardinals. What do you see in this? I'm kind of like I'm on the Titans. I'll be honest. I don't know if they'll win, but I was definitely looking at the spread. I was kind of on the Titans to cover. I just think it's It's another one of those like huge epic games last week, going on the road to beat a team that's kind of beat you up in the AFC title game. Pretty emotional Sunday night game, and then you're going on the road to face a Titans team who's kind of figuring themselves out. So I think it'll be close. I kind of, when I looked at it, liked the Titans a lot to cover at home.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. It's in Tennessee. And to your point of them being emotional about beating the Chiefs, I think that's a real point. But to me, this game comes down to defenses. When they played last year, believe it or not, the Titans knocked the shit out of the Bills. It was 42-16. It was only week 5 of the season. It was early. I expect the Bills to come out here, win the game, and cover. I don't have a lot of confidence in that Titans defense at all. I don't see how they can slow down the Bills passing attack at all. And I think Josh Allen is going to go in there and have a day on Monday Night Football. Now, to me, if the Titans are going to win, they need Derrick Henry to have a hell of a performance and just get that offense going. But I just think it's going to be much harder for Tennessee to score than it's going to be for Buffalo. And for that reason, I just think Buffalo is going to just put up too many points and cover the spread.
Yeah, I mean Buffalo, they should be able to. I'm just kind of banking on the fact that they might come out a little bit slow. I expect the Titans to really grind it out with Derrick Henry. I mean, we've seen what he's been able to do. He averages 128 rush yards a game. Like he's kind of, it's crazy. He had what was it, an awful week 1 where it was like, what the hell are they going to do to get Derrick Henry back in this offense? And he's kind of made up for all of that, and even more when you look at he's carried the ball 20 more times through 5 games than he did last year when he was so good last year. So I just think like at home crowd will be roaring, and it'll be heavy Derrick Henry. I just don't know, as much as the Titans defense won't have an answer for the Bills. I don't know if the Bills defense really has an answer to slow down. I don't know if many teams have an answer. Like Derrick Henry's that big of a physical monster. I don't know if many teams have a weapon to stop him or a plan. You just kind of hope, hey, hit him low or hit him in the knees and he'll slow down. But I mean, we've seen that it takes 2, 3, 4 guys to bring him down. And if they're able to just control the ball, I think they'll try to control the ball and kind of keep Josh Allen off the field and kind of bleed that Bills defense down. It's super interesting to look at Buffalo, though, that they have not faced a team that has a winning record through week 5. Their opponents' win percentages is 32%, tied for lowest in the league. It's funny when you look at, they played the Chiefs, so it's super interesting. This is actually the first team with a winning record up until this point that they will face. Not really a shot at them. Obviously, they don't make their own schedule, but I think it'll be close. I really do.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. To me, with the Derrick Henry thing, I wouldn't say they have the tools to straight up stop him, because no one has the tools to stop him unless Chandler Jones for Arizona with the 8 sacks in week 1, except for an outlier performance like that. The Bills have a good enough defense. To me, Tremaine Edmonds needs to show up and play. Like the linebacker for the Bills, he's going to be a huge part of the Monday night. If he can help slow down Henry, then I'm all Bills. But I mean, that's a tough task.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Also, when I sit back and look at it, it's can they what was I going to say? Pass protection, right? Say the Bills get out and get a lead early. Can they protect Ryan Tannehill? I think they've allowed the most sacks. I think 20 sacks through 5 games the Titans have allowed. So that's most in the NFL. Your quarterback's just getting beat up, and we know if you go behind, you're not going to be able to rely on pounding the rock with Derrick Henry. unless you're facing a defense like the Seahawks, where you can somehow be losing and then still run right through them like it's nothing. But obviously the Bills aren't going to allow you to exploit that. So it'll be interesting to who can get off first, like who can get going first. If the Titans can come out and get ahead, get a lead, and really play the style that they want, which is obviously pound the ball. Or if the Bills can come out, maybe force a turnover out of Ryan Tannehill and then get Josh Allen rolling, get up 14, and then force the Titans to really into a throwing game out of their element. It could very well be a easy cover for the Bills. Really any it's kind of wrap what we as far as I had on the docket. Any like other games that kind of snuck on that we really didn't include here before we kind of jump onto all of our spread picks for week 6?
There's 2 noon games that they're not necessarily like super good, but I think they'll be close. One of them being the Vikings Panthers. The Panthers have melted down the last 2 weeks. They're 2-point dogs at home. And then you got a Minnesota team that has no identity on offense. They were throwing the ball really well the first half last week. Justin Jefferson had over 100 yards. And then the second half, they didn't want to throw him the ball anymore, and they changed the whole game plan. It made no sense to me. Also, there's big question marks in that game because both star running backs are questionable, and Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey. So it's just like, I think it'll be a close, interesting game. It's just both of those teams are like maybe 500 at best, like in the long run. I don't think it'll have big impact, but I think it'll be interesting and close. And then the second one for me was Chiefs Washington. Chiefs should win easily, but to me, those are 2 really bad defenses and the offenses are pretty good. So I would like the over in that game. And I feel like just a ton of points would be scored in the Chiefs Washington game.
Yes, sir. Could not disagree with those points. Another one, the late window that I'm interested, not really interested to watch, but just interested to see how it unfolds is Las Vegas going on the road to Denver. Denver reeling off, I believe it's 2 straight losses now. Obviously, last week was a weird one. Teddy Bridgewater not practicing all week, going across the country to play the Steelers. It was just kind of like the perfect recipe for the Steelers to win. And then obviously all the news with the Raiders throughout this entire week. I'm just interested to see what football team shows up in a division game. Both teams are 3-2. So, both teams are still in the playoff hunt. If the Raiders can kind of move past the John Gruden stuff, they can still salvage a football season, but I kind of don't expect that, especially at Mile High Stadium. I think the line's only like 3 though. So the line's kind of saying it's a typical division game. Denver's just getting the home team points. So it'll be super interesting to see how that unfolds. And then I guess other afternoon, Dallas goes to New England. I'm just interested to see if Dallas's defense can continue to look that good. And I'm on Trayvon Diggs watch, to be honest. Will he get another interception? Seems that man gets an interception every single week. So I might have that game flipped on along with the Arizona one in the late afternoon, just to kind of see if Dallas's defense can keep forcing turnovers and just what Mac Jones looks like. I'm interested to see his development, but that's really all I got. It's kind of a so-so schedule outside of a couple key matchups.
Yeah, real quick on the Raiders. That's so interesting because of the John Gruden stuff. They're either going to get it together and like rally and play really well, or I feel like they're going to fall apart. I don't think there's going to be an in-between for the Raiders. It's going to be really interesting to see how that team responds.
Yeah, very factual. It's quick week. You get thrown off of what happened last week straight into division games. There's kind of no time to relax. It's the NFL. You kind of either this is really make or break. We'll kind of see what the Raiders are made of after John Gruden's resignation. Let's move forward. Week 6 picks against the spread. Our picks are posted right here. Obviously, last week, big week. The flip the standings. I moved into first at 37-37-1. John slides into second, and then the previous first place guy slides down to third. It's just kind of a trend we've been seeing with these picks all along. Any games that you really like going into this week, and any lines that kind of pressed you a little bit when you looked at
them? The Panthers +2 for the reasons I previously stated. That game, who knows what's going to actually happen in that game? It'll be close. And then Houston +10. They looked like a real football team last week. Indianapolis looked much better. I could see Houston getting their ass kicked, or them playing really well and covering. So the Texans scare me. The Panthers scare me. And then the ones I really like the Bills 5.5. And believe it or not, I like the Browns against the Cardinals, even though that's pretty scary. Those are both games that could go the other way, but I like the favorites.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I really like here. I wasn't in love. I mean, the one that really impressed me was that Colts -10. I'm just kind of relying on the fact that the Texans aren't going to look like a competitive football team for 2 straight weeks. And Carson Wentz and the Colts looked pretty good. They didn't win Monday night, but they looked pretty damn good. He had 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Jonathan Taylor was out there balling. So they kind of got things together. So I'm kind of hoping they roll on that momentum and keep it going. And I like Ravens 2.5. I like them to win. Just kind of a bad trip on the road for the Chargers. Trying to think any weird ones that I picked. I went Bears 5.5. I just think a division game they'll be able to attack Aaron Rodgers at some point, piss him off a little bit. He seems to get mad. I see him mad a lot. John went. He got the Bears at +4. I got a couple more points. And yeah, it's just kind of there's some stuff that I don't like. There's some stuff that I do like, but that's just kind of the nature of these when you're picking these games.
Yeah, it's just a little strange this week to me because like you said you like the Ravens. I like the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bills a lot. And those are all games where they could just straight up lose. So it's like it's really interesting that I like those spreads a lot. It's gonna be an interesting week.
Exactly. It'll be an interesting week. We'll kind of see if somebody else, if the trend of 11-3 or 11-4 weeks we'll keep it going. Hopefully we don't get any like cheesy pushes because field goal kickers can't make kicks or extra points. That was like a record last week. I think it was like 13 or 14 extra points missed and field goals missed. And it was just bad. So that kind of stuff, like it feels like Vegas is in on those. I swear every time I watch it, like I forget what game it was. It was like the Rams Thursday night one against the Seahawks where the kicker, I was like, watch, the kicker's going to miss this extra point because the line's like, I forget what it was. The line was like 2 or something or 2.5. Or it was something weird like that. It was like fringe. And then what do you know? But luckily it didn't. It didn't go south. But I mean, that's really all I have. So, I mean, unless you have anything to add, we'll kind of wrap this thing up and get out of here.
Nope, excited for the Thursday night game. Hope the Eagles play well.
Exactly. We'll see how it goes. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you have any suggestions, as we would love to hear your opinion. As always, Spotify link for audio only listeners will be posted in the description and uploaded at the same time that this video goes live. And yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for the week 6 recap.